So I dropped out of college my sophomore year and said, real estate's going to be my thing. And I've been a full-time real estate unemployable investor for now the last 23 years. But I discovered that the funding is really everybody's Achilles heel.
Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What's going on, my party people? My name is Corey Boatwright. I am your host of Real Estate Investing Profit Masters and the founder of Real Estate Investing Profits. I hope you're having a phenomenal, amazing, productive day. I enjoy that intro so much. Maybe it's just me. You like it? It's got to wake you up because there are too many things that put us to sleep in life, right? And hopefully real estate investing is not one of them, because I can assure you today that you are going to be wide awake once you listen to this episode with Lee Arnold. Now, Lee and I, somebody that I've known for a long time, we've known each other for a long time, and just about a decade. And he was in short sales, loss mitigation about the same time I was many years ago. And Lee is someone that I hold with a high amount of respect. Absolutely a guy with integrity, a guy that has built his business, now listen to this, on biblical principles. A bedrock of his success is contributed towards doing things in a way that builds the kingdom of God. And he'll be very forthright and very transparent with you on this interview so you can hear what he's doing and how he's building his business on these biblical principles. So you are in for an amazing treat. He's going to be talking about code enforcement, and he's going to be talking about abatement and ways that you can work with him if you want to learn more about that program. He also has a private lending program. They are just killing it right now. And so you're going to love this interview. Now, if you haven't already, download the Ultimate Real Estate Investing Guide. I want you to do it right now by texting the word 38470. 38470. Download the Down and Dirty Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide. Get it auto-magically sent to your phone. Also, if you're interested in working together, we are actually going to retire our coaching programs in 2020. So we're building a new retainer program that's having a lot of success. So if you're interested in working together before 2020, when those new programs start, then essentially go to Corey's Coaching, CORYS, coaching.com, and you watch a quick little 2-minute video and see if we're the right fit for each other. Ask you a couple of questions on that page too. All right, here you go. Here is Mr. Lee Arnold. Lee, are you there, my man?
I am here, Corey. Thanks for having me.
What's going on?
Just living the dream, man.
Living the dream, man. So where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is in the panhandle of the state. I'm about 100 miles south of the Canadian border, just to give people kind of a proximity as to where I'm at. Beautiful country. If you've never been up here, you're invited. Come hang out.
All right. I appreciate that. That's cool. So how big is the population?
Coeur d'Alene's only about 45,000, but we're about 30 miles from Spokane, Washington,
Sure.
Which is about 500,000 people. So here it's called the Spokane Coeur d'Alene MA, and total about 750,000 people is what we're working with over here.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on here. We have some questions that we'd like to go through and ask you and ask many of the guests that come on. And I know that I've already kind of gave some folks here a couple of ideas on things that we're going to be talking about on the private lending and with Cogo Capital. But I think that you've got some pretty interesting ways that you've built that company. And particularly one of the things that I love about what you're doing right now, Lee, is really building your business on biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that that is amazing. And I think it's something to really be excited about. And I also know that you've shared some stories with me on, by doing that, some of the things that have happened in the business. I would garner to say that you've also attracted some really great people
Mm-hmm.
that you work with, and you really
Right.
have a great clients that you get an opportunity to work with. So I know that you're connecting investors and private lenders together all across the country, even in, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so why don't we start there? Why don't we talk about kind of what your expertise is and who your ideal client is, Lee?
Okay. Um, Expertise, Corey. I started investing in real estate back in 1996. And at the time, I was working at a grocery store, bagging groceries, making $3.90 an hour. I was also self-funding my education at community college, and I saw an infomercial on TV. And so I go to the DoubleTree Hotel in downtown Spokane. For 2 hours, they get me all hyped up. I go racing to the back table. I give them all my money, and then I go to a 3-day event. Does any of this sound at all remotely familiar, Corey?
Not at all, Lee.
So I like to say that I am a result of the industry that you and I are in, which is a lot of informational marketing and just sharing with people. Our old pastor in Salt Lake City used to say, I'm simply one beggar sharing with another beggar where I found bread. And that's kind of how I view my role here, because I come from a background, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad, we would be considered, comfortably blue collar, lower class white collar. So we never had a lot of money. And I really had to kind of learn all of this stuff going along. And what I discovered through kind of my journey is that money is attracted to opportunity. And while we as investors think that we have to have good credit, we have to have money in the bank, we have to have all these things, the truth is money doesn't care about you. Money cares about the opportunity. And if money is going to go into something, how is it going to get paid? How is it going to get repaid? And is the investment safe? And so kind of my message, and I would say, Corey, my specialty is hopefully helping people understand that I don't care what your background is. I don't care if you don't have two nickels to rub together. I don't care if you've never even owned a piece of real estate. As a private money lender, and we do lend nationwide, and we've lent hundreds of millions of dollars across the country to investors, many of them first-time investors, because you don't need to worry about funding if you are out there finding great deals.
Right.
And that's what I love about you, Corey, and what you're doing and your messages. You are really good at helping your clients find great deals. And that's the secret sauce. If you'll simply find good deals, then money will readily be available for those things.
He'll come looking for you. Yeah, often we chase money, and the old adage is when you chase money, it runs. So
That's right.
So chasing the deals and chasing the opportunities, and those actually being gravitating towards you whenever you have good people and good opportunities that you're working with within that kind of sphere. What
Right.
made you want to get involved with real estate investing, Lee?
My grandfather raised cattle. So he was a full-time farmer. He had a couple hundred acres in a little podunk town called St. Mary's, Idaho. And as a kid, I used to go and I would help my grandfather bring in the cattle and bring this cattle to auction. And so he was really the only entrepreneur I knew in my young life. And I remember one day going with my grandfather to a house, and he said he had just bought this house for $4,500. Now, this is going back in the late 70s, early 80s. And this is not an area where you buy houses for $4,500. This is a $45,000 house. And I asked him, I said, well, Grandpa, how did you get the house? He says, oh, it was in the newspaper, so I just put in a silent bid. He said, I didn't think I was going to get it, but they accepted my offer. I said, well, what are we doing here? He says, we're going to trash it out because I'm going to rent it out. And I'm only like 11, 12 years old at this time, but man, I got to tell you, that stuck with me. And I went, wait a minute. He just paid $4,500 for a house, and somebody's now going to pay $500 a month to live there? That's like 150% return. Now, at 11 and 12, I'd love to tell you that I knew about cash-on-cash return and internal rates of return and, I didn't. But I remember thinking, that seems really smart to me. And I didn't hear anything else about real estate in junior high or high school. Even in college, nobody was talking about real estate investing. So as much as people like to disparage those that are on TV and doing infomercials and webinars and putting on events around the country, I got to tell you, without that, I would have, that was my entry point. And if there weren't companies out there doing those things, I'd probably still be working in a grocery store. Now, I would hope that I'd be assistant manager by now, but I really didn't have a path. And
Right.
so for me, when I discovered real estate, I went, you know what, this is incredible. I flipped my first house when I was 18 years old, and I said, this is what I want to do for a living. So I dropped out of college my sophomore year and said, real estate's going to be my thing. And I've been a full-time real estate unemployable investor for now the last 23 years. But I discovered that the funding is really everybody's Achilles heel. It is used as an excuse and a reason as to why somebody can't get involved. And that's just not the case at all. Real estate is something that's available to every single person that's got a heartbeat and a dream. Funding's easy if you know what you're looking for.
Did you have an influence outside of, was that your dad or your grandfather?
It was my grandfather. The influence, my grandpa. The influence that my dad had on me, my dad got his degree at the University of Washington, 4-year degree. And when I was in 5th grade, he had been at a power company for 19 and a half years, very stressed, blood pressure through the roof, goes to the doctor. Doctor says, my dad's name is Larry. He says, Larry, if you stay at that job, he said, you're going to be dead in 6 months. He said, your blood pressure, you're through the roof. He said, you need to calm down. So my recommendation would be to quit your job. So my dad says, well, I only have 6 months to retirement. He goes, well, do you want a retirement or do you want to be dead?
Jeez.
So my dad retires. He's got 6 months to go to a full retirement. He leaves. And he spent 2 years unemployed. Now, my mom's a stay-at-home mom. She doesn't have any formal education other than high school, no degrees. She had to go back to work at a job making $5 an hour, supporting an entire family. For 2 years, this went on. And there were mornings when I would wake up, open the front door to go catch the bus, and there would be a box of food on our front porch that somebody from our church had left there. And so I spent 2 years living on donated clothes, donated food. Even my first pair of prescription glasses came from the Lions Club charity box at the end of the grocery counter. And you know, these were these big, massive frames. These are not frames that any 6th grader should be wearing ever. Socially, you're in big trouble with these frames. So what I learned from that, and it was a positive experience. My dad's great, incredibly intelligent, but what I learned from that is that a traditional education and a degree is not going to give you security. There is no guaranteed paycheck, even though you are highly credentialed and you have, all these things you can do. If you rely on someone else to sign your paycheck, you are in a risky situation. And so almost at the age of, 6th grade, 12 years old, I decided in that moment, I don't care what I'm going to do in life, but I'm not going to have my paycheck signed by somebody else. Now, at 16, my first non-farm job was at the grocery store, and it was my last W-2 job. And I was there for about 5 years, but admittedly, Corey, I was spending time there just trying to figure out what is my purpose. I heard it said that there's 2 amazing days in your life. It's the day you're born and the day you realize why you were born. These are the 2 most important days in your life.
Right.
And when I went to that seminar, I realized I'm born because through real estate, I can improve communities. I can improve people's financial situations. I can help people get from zero to wherever they want to be.
Yes.
It's just the most amazing, non-discriminatory thing that I've ever, it's like, I get goosebumps just talking about it because it can change lives like that.
Yes, it does. I can attest to that. I know you can attest to. Grateful to be involved with real estate investing. And it sounds like you had enough what we call conversation with ourselves, right? Where it's at that breaking point, you're trying to figure everything out. Do you remember at that moment where it was like, I can't do this any longer. I cannot have somebody else sign my paycheck. There's a lot of people listening right now that are at that moment right now. They have been working another job. They can't stand their boss any longer, and they are contemplating whether or not they want to take that step to be a full-time real estate investor. And I know this started early on in your life, but what was that enough moment? What was the straw that broke the camel's back to maybe encourage others listening?
The straw that broke the camel's back is that my first flip, I made more money on my first deal than my college professor was earning teaching me Philosophy 101. And that was the catalyst, because I'm sitting there going, now, wait a minute. I'm paying you to teach me how to make $35,000 a year working for somebody else and getting 3 months of vacation. That doesn't work for me. And it was literally that epiphanal moment. I literally got up in the middle of class and I walked out. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out of here. At that time I was reading Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And as you know, in the book, he talks about the poor dad had all the education in the world, but he didn't have the ability to make income. Rich dad had no formalized education in the world, but he knew how to run people for profit. And the crux of that book was, if you want to be rich and successful, you have got to surround yourself with wealthy and successful people, because wealth is a contact sport.
Yes.
And the more people you come in contact with that are successful in the business that you want to be in, the higher probability that you'll be successful. So I kind of, from that point on, went on this quest to surround myself with people that were being successful in real estate. And that's why I've appreciated our relationship. Corey, you and I go back, over a decade now.
A long time. And the short sale.
Yeah.
I had a short sale course came out, and you had a loss mitigation company, right, and short sale information out there in the info world. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. And those were interesting times, man. 2009 was a trip, because I'd been investing full time since '96, and I was not prepared for 9. Admittedly, I was probably a little too arrogant to see the warning signs, and I just didn't think it could stop. And I was swinging for the fences, man. If that ball connected, it was going to be a home run. And I missed the market completely. I ended up losing about $40 million in development deals. Gosh. It was a painful experience, but I would not change it for the world, because I believe I'm a much better investor because of it. I'd like to think I'm a little bit more humble as a result of it. And I'm now looking at the market very differently. But I will tell you that I'm much more bullish on the market now, looking back on 8 and 9 and what was transpiring then. I don't think we're even in the same stratosphere of that to where we are now. No, certainly there's some correction coming, but it's not going to be, the 20 and 30% adjustments that were incredibly painful. I think we're going to see a slowing. We're seeing elongated days on market. All of those things are going to adjust pricing down, but I don't see or predict a crash at all.
Actually bring up some good points, because I want to go into this. What is what we call your profit master investing strategy, where you really are dialing in on that? I know private lending has been one of those big areas for you, and helping clients all around the country with biblical principles on investing, on working together with you, on that integrity principle, on that bedrock that you found. Right. You also talked about the recession. The first time ever that we had a national real estate recession was during that time, when it really started between 2005, 2006, and as you mentioned, up to 2009, 10, and kind of trailed off there. And now that we're looking at, quote, another time every 7.5 to 8 years or so for a correction, if it's going to be as worse or as bad as it was. And you and I are both on that same path of also agreeing that I believe that we're not going to see a national recession like that again. I think that we've learned a lot from those different ups and downs. However, we are going to see, I believe, a correction, and we'll see what happens with it. But now we're a lot wiser. We look and see where those opportunities are now, and I believe now we are both ready and prepared for maybe having a little bit more dry powder, having some things set off to the side, some opportunities, having your eyes open. So whenever things are starting to, get into a place where that recession starts to hit, we really recognize it. Also, being a part of a mastermind that you and I are both a part of with CG,
has helped that tremendously too. And again, going back to what you said about being in the right place at the right time with the right people makes all the difference in the world. And so, Lee, let's talk about what is your investing strategy now, your Profit Master investing strategy, where you're really putting your emphasis and focusing on serving and helping others.
We stumbled upon, and this is going back now to 2015, and prior to this, I had no idea that this strategy even existed. I was blind to it because I wasn't even aware that this was taking place. And that is the code enforcement lien abatement process. Now, a lot of people are hearing that and going, how did you not know that? Well, like I said, it just wasn't an area I was focused on. But as I dove into it, and I'd love to take credit for this, Corey, but quite honestly, a woman walked into my office off of one of the signs on one of my vans and just came in and said, will you buy my house? And I said, probably. Tell me the situation. Well, the situation is that the city had boarded the house up. They had assessed $80,000 in fines against her because in a 12-month period of time, 911 had been called over 221 times and dispatched to this property, which was costing the city a fortune because she kept peddling and dealing drugs out of this place. And it was just a very troubled situation and a very troubled neighborhood. And so when she called me in and said, I owe $100,000, I'm looking at everything and I say, well, the house is worth about 25 grand. You owe 100, it's worth 25 grand. Well, Corey, this is when my short sale experience kicked in and I went, well, wait a minute. I don't care if you owe $100,000. I don't care if you owe the city 80 grand. All I care about is the house is worth 25,000. And if I can make a strong case why everyone on title should take less to get this property in the hands of somebody that could take it to productive use, right, I think there's a case to be made here. And so I built a short sale package around the entire file. And I went down and I met with the city and I said, look, you guys, here's what you're owed. Here's what it's costing you. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's where it's going to sell. Here's the new tax value. And we got a responsible owner occupant now living in a relatively troubled community. Right. Since I did that first deal, we've done 4 other houses on the exact same street, let alone the amount of houses that we've done throughout the rest of the city. Now, the reason I've kind of glommed onto this strategy is it's a issue that every city in America has. Most cities don't have the resources or the infrastructure to go in and negotiate all those liens away because they just don't know how to do that. And so we've been teaching a course called Lien Abatement Certification for the last 4 years now, teaching people how to go and work with their municipality to take those troubled, drug-challenged properties off of the city's rolls, invest money into fixing them up, cleaning them up, and we are changing communities across the country. And I get a lot of personal fulfillment from that. Now, I had a gentleman that we just closed a loan for him last week, and he had been doing lien abatement code enforcement for the last 20 years, and he had retired 10 years ago. And I said, well, why did you retire 10 years ago? Why are you suddenly now re-engaging and getting back involved? He said, because, Lee, I stopped doing code enforcement and lien abatement because I couldn't find a lender who would lend me the money in the areas that some of these properties are located. He said, but when I found you and realized you guys not only do code enforcement, you teach code enforcement, and you lend on those properties, he said, I had to go back in. It's such a lucrative side of the business, and it blesses so many people. And that's my philosophy here. If you ever come to my office, Corey, you're going to see it right on the side of the wall. It says, we get more of what we want by helping others get more of what they want. Yes. So as a company, we want to be responsible neighbors, responsible business owners, and we want to help serve the community. We want to help serve the city. We want to help bring blight to bright. We want to take those troubled homes and turn them into productive use. And it's been we've had this amazing, incredible response. I have flown around the country and met with land banks in the Midwest. I mean, there are literally millions of these properties and very few practitioners that truly know what they're doing and have access to the capital to do it. So very long answer to your question, but we are loving the code enforcement space.
Code enforcement space. It's great because I'll definitely know you're going to have a link here to a little bit so we can learn more about that particular strategy. We also have code enforcement that are great opportunities for these properties to have somebody come in and restore them or buy them. And they're just sitting there, often just junking up the neighborhood. So there's great opportunity for them, but finding them in a strategic way is very, very powerful. And that's great. Did you have a big challenge that you've dealt with in your investing career so far? If you have, what's been one of the ways that that you've been able to kind of overcome that challenge?
The biggest challenge that I've experienced in my career thus far really goes back to 2007 when I mentioned I was swinging for the fences, and I was developing jumbo properties on the backside of Deer Valley in Park City, Utah, and we were building 14,000 square foot homes. And we had a $7.5 million construction cost, and we had a $23 million post-construction appraisal. I was building 3 of these homes as we were heading into 2008, 2009. Now, the plan was we were going to fractionalize these large jumbo properties, and rather than selling one house for $18 million, we were going to fractionalize those houses and sell 1/9 shares, because who needs a ski house 12 months out of the year? So doing fractional, you get 1/9 ownership of the property, 1/9 of the cost, the expenses, the taxes. So in theory and on paper, it worked really well.
Sure. And
But
you already have probably a lot of these people already raised their hand and said we're in on these.
Right. So as we're now trucking through, I purchased a full-page ad in Ski Magazine, July of 2008. And if you remember, Lehman went down in August, Bear Stearns went down in September. And so what I learned from that is, if you don't have the cash flow to sustain your debt service in the absence of income, you better focus on properties that are producing revenue the day you buy them, or the runway to profit or the runway to income is short. Otherwise, you're going to go broke just servicing debt, which means you should avoid development, you should avoid dirt, you should avoid apartment buildings from the ground up, because you've got a good 18 to 24 month runway before you're getting paid on those things. So as we go into a troubled or a questioned market cycle, you can't predict where that dirt's going to be valued moving forward. Now, let me just, in full disclosure, I do development. I'm working on a 50-acre RV resort right now. But I have the cash reserves to sustain that even in a troubled marketplace.
Right.
But if you don't, I strongly encourage people to stay focused on single-family residential, quick in and out. That's the fastest and the safest place to be in an adjusting market cycle.
It's true. And I can't agree with you more on that. And that's a great lesson to learn, because you get so excited about the deal, right, that you forget that if that deal is promising you X amount of dollars for future dollars, and that lure is so intense that you forget about what you can afford right now and what you can handle right now, then what you're going to do is you're setting yourself up for a potential tragedy. This is very different from taking a risk and going with it. Yeah, sometimes those work out. But in this particular example, whenever you are holding out and waiting for this money to come in to be able to sustain where you are right now, there's only so much runway, as you mentioned. There's only so much runway that you have that you're going to run out. And when you run out, it can get really ugly really fast. The other thing is that the market crashed at that time. And so all those folks that raised their hand and said, we're going to put our money in and we're going to do it, now they are nowhere to be found. Okay. Right. And so they don't care about you. All they care about is their family first, not you, the investor. So that's a very good thing to remember. If you're doing deals and you're doing these great things, you have a great opportunity, make sure that you have that stability, what Lee just talked about, to be able to withstand and withhold and have a bedrock that you can stand on, even if those investors don't come through. And that's the reserve conversation that we don't have. as investors, we tend to get so lured into the deal and the opportunity that we forget about having that conversation about reserve, which is really just good biblical principle that you built your entire business on, and from the wisdom of things that you went through in the past, which I love that you're sharing that, serving others with that information. What's one of the greatest lessons that you've learned to get to where you are today, Lee?
Serve first.
Love that.
You know, there's a book out that a lot of people are recommending that we read called Profit First.
Right.
And while I understand the fundamentals behind it, you know, you need to pay yourself because if you're not earning any money, you can't stay in business. I get all that.
Right.
But when that's the driver, when that's the primary focus, we forget about the humanity that is real estate.
Right.
Every piece of real estate is being used by humans, either from a retail, an industrial, or residential. Humans are using this thing.
Yes.
So the question that I always ask is, how can I serve the most people in the shortest period of time? And that's why I love the code enforcement stuff, because the people that we're going out and meeting with, they don't know what their options are. All they know is that the city kicked them out, boarded up their house. They've got all this debt. They have no idea how to get out from under it. And to come to them with options. And you know, I just hired some new acquisitions people, and I've been training them today. And I said, here's what you guys have to understand. And here's the challenge in your position. I said, you guys get a commission, a bonus every time we buy a house and sell a house. I said, but when you are sitting down with a homeowner, the only thing that should be going through your mind in that moment is, how can I help and serve these people?
Yes.
Even if the solution isn't going to get you paid, you always have to communicate to the seller or the homeowner in a situation that's going to get them the results they're looking for.
Yes.
But we have a tendency to always be so focused on what we want that we lose sight of what's really important, and that's what the seller needs. So that's what I've learned. And Corey, I'd love to tell you that I've been a good Christian man my entire career. But, you know, when I started investing in 96, I was a good Christian man, and I started making a lot of money. And it didn't take very long for me to be a very backslidden Christian man.
Absolutely.
And when 2008 and 9 happened, it was kind of my aha moment. God saying to me, Lee, if you're not going to honor me in your business, then I'm not going to honor your business. And literally, I mean, overnight, it felt like everything was taken away. The carpet was just pulled out from under me. And I said, okay, Lord, you got my attention, and we're going to do things differently from this point forward. And we're going to build a company where you are the CEO. And yeah, if you go to my website, it says Lee Arnold CEO. But if you come to our Tuesday morning prayer huddles with our staff, I pray every Tuesday, God, you're the CEO of this company. Show me what you would have us to do and where you want us to go, and bring people to us that we can serve and we can bless. Because if that's the focus, money is just the natural result, but it can't be the driver, can't be the primary.
I agree with that. If you had to start all over again, because you've learned a lot of stuff, how would you do that now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the way that the question is often asked of me, they say, Lee, if you were that 18-year-old kid again working in that grocery store,
Right.
What advice would you give yourself? And here's the advice I would say. I would say, Lee, I want you to immediately go enroll in real estate school. I want you to get your real estate license. I want you to go hang your license with a Keller Williams or a company that's got a tremendous training program. And I want you to surround yourself and immerse yourself with people that are already in the business that you want to be in. I want you to keep your job at the grocery store so that you have an income, and you're going to continue to work full-time making $3.90 an hour while you build your real estate empire. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they quit their job. They hear, oh man, real estate's where it's at, and I'm going to get rich, and I'm going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they quit their job. And the minute they do that, they become unbankable, because banks don't think what we do is a legitimate business. They only look at our W-2 income or our service income. So income from commissions, income from loan origination. That stuff's fine, but show them a portfolio that you flipped 100 properties and made $1 million, that doesn't count. All they want to know is, what is the consistency of income that's coming from somebody else signing your paychecks, because that's how banks think. So I encourage my clients to stay at your job, spend a year rebuilding your job income with your investment income, and then double it. So if you make $50,000 a year, goal one for you as an investor is to make $50,000 a year in real estate. Goal two is to now double the 50 grand. So 50,000, you're going to make $100,000 in your second year while still working at your job, making $50,000 a year. Well, now 2 years later, fast forward 24 months, we got $150,000 in the bank. Now you're not going to quit your job. You're going to go work for a different company, which you happen to own. And you're going to set yourself up as an employee, a W-2 employee of this LLC, S, Inc., Corp., whatever you want to set it up as. And now you're going to continue to take regular every other Friday distributions from that in the form of a paycheck. That way, when you go to the bank and they say, show us your employers, you're going to say, I worked for a grocery store for 2 years. Now I work for this real estate development company. Has there been any change in your income? Well, I went from making $50,000 a year. Now I make $58,000 a year. And the reason that you rarely hear that is it's not glamorous, right? It's not the quit your job, make $1 million, fly around on private jets. But that messaging, in my opinion, is what gets so many people into trouble in this business. It's a great business, and you don't need to be overzealous. Slow and steady wins the race. And if we can, if in 24 months, Corey, I can take you from where you are, put $150,000 cash in the bank, and continue that steady stream of income. Is that exciting? It should be. But if I can help you make $50,000 in year one, $100,000 in year two, $200,000 in year three, $400,000 in year four, $800,000 in year five, if we just focus on slow and steady, I hear these people, we're on the Inc. 5,000 list. We're number 486. We're doubling at 3,000% annually. When I hear that, I think, all right, well, I'll buy your assets out of bankruptcy because you're running too fast. You're not building, you're not building infrastructure to support this thing.
And what's your profitability?
It's trouble.
Yeah.
So we look at a 20%. All I want is a 20% year-over-year increase, just slow, steady, consistent, reliable, and predictable. Those are my two favorite words in business, reliable and predictable, so that I'm not guessing about where income's coming from. I can predict and know that it's coming because it's always come in the past. The best predictor of future performance is past performance. So that's kind of my philosophy.
I love it. Do you have some good motivational business quotes that you can share? Because it sounds like you are pretty excited about some of these concepts, and where did they come from? Do you have some motivational quotes? You kind of alluded to Zig Ziglar from What's on Your Wall, which can help people get what they want. Eventually, you'll get what you want. Kind of a version of that. What's your motivational quote that you really like?
The one that I will quote most often to my clients and other staff is, don't leave your success in the hands of others.
I like that.
Because we have a tendency to rely on somebody else to do something, to pull a lever, to move a box before now we can engage.
Right.
And it goes back to the whole theory about signing your own paychecks. If you're waiting for somebody else to reward you with money for a job well done, it's going to be a small check. But if you will take your own success into your own hands and just hit it, you're in control. So don't leave your success in the hands of others is by far one of my favorites.
What about a favorite book that you like that you could recommend?
Well, of course, the Bible. It starts with that because every self-help book, get-rich-quick book, is based on biblical principles. People don't know that, but that's the reality. And if you just read the book of Proverbs, everything you need to know is in there because that's where Zig Ziglar got it. That's where that's where these guys got all of that stuff. So Bible, but I'll tell you my three favorite books. Okay, number one, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. You've got to know how to communicate with people, and you've got to make them feel important. Yeah. Second favorite book, Life is a Series of Presentations, Tony Jerry. How you come across, how you communicate, the clothes you wear. Every little thing you do is sending a message, and it's either verifying what you've been saying or it's countering what you've been saying. So it's important that you're consistent and congruent from your words to your actions to your demeanor. So that's great. Favorite book number three, and this is an odd one, and it's called Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely.
Yeah, great book. Yep.
By far one of the best books that I've ever read on psychology and NLP and sales that has nothing to do with any of those things.
Right.
It's simply understanding how people think and why they do the things that they do. Because if you can predict how a seller is going to respond before you even say the question, it's going to change how you approach them in helping them out of that current situation. And I could give you a whole laundry list, Corey. I know you've got them as well, but those are my top three.
I love it, man. I'm going to put all these in the show notes. We're going to go through a couple more questions here, but I'll definitely make sure that all these here are in the show notes. I've read that book. It is a great book. To add to that, How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of my favorite books from Dale Carnegie. And then to your predictably irrational, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, just in terms of the way you're thinking. Whenever I went through that book, I was in a personal challenge of relationships and things like that, which is what it's intended for. However, a challenge is if you read it and think about it on who your clients are, and think about not just your spouse, but who your clients are and what their love language is and how they show love and how they receive love. And it will absolutely rock your world when you think about these different ways that your clients feel love and how you can help them too. So I love that, Lee, that predictably irrational book. That I didn't know that was one of your favorites.
Yep.
So do you use mobile apps a lot? Do you have a favorite one in your business that you use?
I don't use mobile apps. We use something called SendFuse.
Yeah, sure.
Which is a text bot. And through SendFuse, we're able to get title on properties. We're able to send offers with proof of funds letters attached. We're able to skip trace homeowners. There's even a call service tied to it, so we don't even have to make outbound calls. And it's just been a phenomenal app for us. But in full disclosure, Corey, I have to tell you, it's somewhat self-serving because we started using SendFuse a few months ago, and I liked it so much that I just bought the company. So SendFuse is actually now something that we own, and it's something we offer to the general public as well as to our customer base. But it is a game changer for anybody, regardless of what level you're at in business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's nothing like, if you like it so much, you might as well buy the company.
Right.
Do you get more than 8 hours of sleep at night?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say more. I'm more of a 7 hours guy, but I'm usually in bed by 11 and up by 6.
What's your morning routine?
I would love to tell you that I get up and I have my devotions and I go to the gym and I work out and, then I do some yoga and I get my wife and I got married back in 2002, and about 3 years after we were married, we decided we wanted to have kids, but we were struggling to have kids. And so we tried everything you can possibly imagine. Some of them were really fun. Others of them weren't any fun at all. And we were just praying. We had people at our church praying with us, and we really wanted kids. So we ended up doing in vitro, and we ended up with twins. And they were born in December of 6. And I'll never forget this because I was on a business trip. I was down in Florida at a Ron LeGrand event. I was speaking at a Ron LeGrand event. And I got home. It was real early in the morning. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And this is 4 months now after the twins have been born. And my wife is sitting on the edge of the bed waiting for me to get home. It's 2:30 a.m. Twins are asleep. Wife's sitting on the bed. She says, "Lee, you and I need to have a very serious conversation." Now, this is not a good thing to hear from your wife when you travel for work, right?
Oh, no, it's not.
And I said,
no, I can attest to that. No, it's not.
I said, "Well, Jacqueline, what's going on? What's the problem?" She says, "I'm pregnant with baby number 3, 4 months after the twins had been born. So we had 3 kids in 14 months, which was a tremendous blessing. But what I learned from this is you got to be very careful and very specific about what you ask God for, because we simply asked for a family, and He gave us a family. Yeah, like that. So needless to say, I'm up at 6. I'm walking out the door at 6:45, driving my kids to school, and then heading into the office to be here by 8. So my mornings usually start pretty abruptly, and we are going. But it's great. I love family, love my kids, and it's a lot of fun. So, once I get through this,
there's no right or wrong to it,
yeah, once I get through this season, Corey, maybe I'll have a better response to that question with the yoga and the devotions and the working out. But right now, I don't have it.
Just send pictures of you doing yoga, man. That's all.
Nobody wants to see that, Corey.
What are you most grateful for, Lee? Because you got a lot of things going on in your life. You talk about your family, and you got your business that's really growing right now, and blessing a lot of people. What are you most grateful for?
Well, this sounds cliche, and I don't know all of your audience, Corey. I know that you're a believer, as am I. But I'm most grateful for salvation. I'm most grateful for Jesus dying on the cross for me, and it's through His death and sacrifice and rising again that we get salvation. One of the things that we do, we put on real estate investment seminars all over the country, and we have a nonprofit called He's the Solution Ministries, and we hold church services at every single one of our events. So if we are in a city doing an event Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if we are bringing people into a room on a Sunday morning, we're having church services. I'm an ordained pastor, and I will fly out and I'll do church services at those events. We hire local pastors to come in and do church services at those events. And we are seeing people coming and accepting Christ all over the country. And so to me, while I enjoy real estate and I enjoy business and I enjoy for-profit operations, it's literally financing the nonprofits so that we can be out in more cities spreading the gospel. So that's what I'm grateful for. And, I know that people are probably going to watch this and go, that guy's so full of it. He's using God to get business, to get leads. You know what? This is God's business, and He finances it. And if we do business together, great. And if we don't, that's okay too. I want to be in His will in all that I'm doing. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Yeah, so it's awesome, man. So awesome, and really appreciate you being open and transparent about your faith. It's encouraging. What point in your career and in your journey would you recommend having a coach or a mentor, and how has that been important to your success?
I would not spend another second attempting to do anything in the absence of a coach or a mentor or somebody that can take you by the hand and show you. More now than ever before, I am really focused in on apprenticeship, because I own a full service construction company, and we're flipping 100 houses here in my local market, and I cannot find skilled labor. Because, over the last 20 years, there's just this big push for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And because of this, they've taken out wood shop, they've taken out metal shop, they've taken out anything that teaches kids how to use their hands and to use tools and to build stuff. And it is becoming harder and harder to find skilled tradespeople. Sure. And so we have set up within our construction company an apprenticeship program where there's a laundry list of things that they need to check the box on. And anytime that I've got guys going out to do sheetrock on a house, I take one of my new people. You're going to go with this guy. He's going to teach you how to sheetrock. He's got to sign off that you did the work, you did the mud, you did the tape. If it's a roof, you got to go with the guy that's putting the roof on the house. And so through this apprenticeship program, we're able to take unskilled labor and make it skilled. Yeah. And as a result of this process, I'm coming to the realization that this is not just using tools and your hands and building stuff. This is true of everything. I had a mentor very early in my career, and I am now on mentor number 7. Because I always find the person that's doing the thing that I want to be doing, that's killing it and making far more money at it than I am, and I'm going to glob onto them and do everything they tell me to do until my income has outperformed their income. When that occurs, I got to go find a new mentor. Or if I'm going to go into a different field or a different line of business, or I'm going to open a new vertical within my company, I'm going to go find the person that is best at that vertical, and I'm either going to hire them to run that vertical, or I'm going to hire them to come in and consult on that vertical. But I am such a believer in mentorship and coaching and consulting. and what it costs is minuscule to the value that produces. Chuck Smith, the founder of Calvary Chapel Churches, he made a comment. He said, the best educator is experience. He said, but very few can afford the tuition.
Ooh, yeah.
Isn't that good?
That's
Yeah,
real.
the best educator is experience, but very few can afford the tuition.
I like that.
What a mentor gives you is a risk-free environment to learn and perfect your craft while telling you what to avoid, what to move forward in on, what to lean in on. And you will build your company in a third of the time if you're simply doing what somebody who's already been there is telling you what to do.
Yes.
You know, a mentor, their rear view is your fore view. So they've already been there.
That's right.
Just do what they say. And cost should not even be an issue. The thing that everybody should be asking when they look at hiring a mentor or a coach or consultant is, what's my return on investment, and how long is that runway before I see a return? Right. So, you know, Corey, you and I are in a very, very high-end mastermind that is not cheap to be involved with. But I got a 3-to-1 return just from my first meeting at that mastermind.
Yes.
Because it's filled with the type of people that know what they're doing. They are expert practitioners of their craft, and they share openly. And that's what any good mentor would do. So I am so bullish on it. I would not even proceed in any business without having somebody guiding me and showing me.
And you're passionate about it, and I can tell too. Well, why do you do what you do, Lee? What gets you up in the morning when you put your feet down on the ground? What's that drive? Why do you do what you do?
I think it's the most fun thing a person can do. And it's almost to a fault, because I have been accused of being a workaholic. But, you know, I meet all these people that are in CrossFit, right? Yeah. You know, you see all these CrossFitters, and they go to the gym and they work out for 5 hours every night, and they've got muscles coming out of their pants. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And some would say that you're a CrossFit junkie, but they genuinely love what they're doing. And I genuinely love what I do. You know, every day I get up, there's going to be somebody calling in on the phone. I'm going to get an email from somebody's going to walk through my front office door. I don't have a clue what they need. I don't have a clue how I'm going to be able to help them, but I just love the variety. It's just, it's so much fun. I love this business.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny. I'm reminded of a saying that when you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth to that. I'll add a piece of it that I think is important as well. If you're married, just make sure that your wife also believes that same way. So with that, I really appreciate you being on here, and it's great to see you're passionate and helping people. I would like to know how we can serve you, and what is a way that we can get in touch with you if we want to learn more.
Great. The way that you could serve me, Corey, is send me people that need funding for real estate deals.
Okay.
So if there's anybody out there that is looking for financing, please send them to me. We just opened our 3rd private equity fund. This is a Reg A Plus fund. So we're right now in the midst of another $50 million raise. And, you know, we talk a lot about raising money and, ooh, that's really exciting. No, raising money is the scariest thing you can ever do if you don't have somewhere to deploy it. So you've got to raise money in tandem with the opportunities that the money can flow into. So as we're raising now this 3rd equity fund, I need to increase the volume of opportunities that we can be funding too. So we are right now aggressively looking for new borrowers. And I don't care if you don't have any experience at all, if you've never done a deal. I don't care if you've got terrible credit. I don't care if you don't have 2 nickels rubbed together. If you're simply finding great deals, you need funding, we'd love to help you with that. So
that's for those family or multifamily or what kind of market and class that you're looking at?
We finance everything, but our specialty is going to be single family, residential, and our minimum loan is $30,000. So I know that there's a lot of lenders out there where their minimum loan is $100,000.
Yeah.
But for those that are in the Midwestern states, I mean, if you're in Cincinnati, you can buy houses for $4,500 in those markets. So a lot of lenders aren't able to service our Midwestern clientele, and that's the reason that our minimum loan is $30,000. Is we wanted to be able to serve as many people as we could.
Lee, are you also asset driven mostly, or credit driven, or a little bit of both?
The asset determines whether or not we fund the loan.
Okay.
The credit, the experience, and the financials dictate how much the loan is going to cost. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
So asset says
you have a better
yes.
credit score. You have a better track record that says you've paid on time. Maybe you've got some experience. You're going to get a lower rate on the deal. Probably no points or less points and a lower rate versus if you just started yesterday, maybe you had a couple of hiccups or a black eye in the past, but the asset is a great enough opportunity where whoever's going to lend on it isn't going to be putting themselves in too much jeopardy, and the risk is tolerant enough that you'll probably charge maybe a few points or maybe more points and a higher rate, but you can still get the deal done either way.
Right. Exactly right. Yep.
That sounds great.
So for anybody that needs funding, Corey, you can send them to cogocapital.com.
Cogo Capital. Okay.
Cogo Capital, C-O-G-O. Cogo is a Greek word that means to bring together. And that's what we do is we bring people that need to deploy capital through our equity funds, and we lend it to people that need capital and present opportunities to those investors. So we're just kind of the conduit that brings people together. For those that are interested in attending one of our funding tours that we put on nationwide, you can go to fundingtour.com, and it'll give you a list of all the cities that we're going to be in. We're usually in 1 to 2 cities every single week. And if you are an absolute real estate professional and you don't need any more classes or trainings, I'd love to have you guys just come out and join us for church services at our events on Sunday morning. It starts at 7:45. Any city that we're in, we're having church Sunday morning at 7:45. So come by. We'd love to worship with you. But that's fundingtour.com.
That's great, man. This has been awesome. So thank you for taking the time. I know you are extremely busy. You have all the things that you need to get done in the day. And for you to take just 30 minutes to 40 minutes out of your time to explain what you do, share some of your story, share about your faith, it really means a lot. It means a lot to those listening as well. And Lee, I just really appreciate you as a person. And I've really enjoyed getting to know you more. We kind of were competitors in the past with the short sale thing and loss mitigation thing. And, you were doing your thing and I was out there doing my thing with my software and stuff. And it seems after all that stuff came over and finished, and we met each other again. I have just been really impressed with everything I've known about you, what people say about you, the business that you're running, and more importantly, your integrity and your faith principles. So, man, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you again for being a good friend and also being someone that's a light in a dark world, because it really is. And people need to follow someone that's doing it right and they can rely on, they can trust, and has a good track record. So thank you for that, man.
I appreciate that, Corey. And thank you, because I love your tagline, be a servant, because that's everything. And if you'll build businesses on that one fundamental principle, success will not be that far away.
100% agree. And I believe you follow it to a T. So, so thank you very much for being on here. And we've got everything. It will have that in the show notes, and we'll have your link there. You can get in touch with you at Cogo Capital and a funding tour. And so thank you very much, Lee.
My pleasure. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate the time.
Thanks. All right. Bye now.
Hi, this is Corey Boatwright, and I have a quick question for you. What is the fastest way to reach your goals? Is it to work harder, work smarter, use system and processes, or hire rock star employees? What about just making more money? Actually, it's none of that. Those things are a byproduct of the one success component that every real estate investor or business owner that I know all have in common. And the answer is clarity.
complete laser focus on what you want, why you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it. So where do you find clarity? By hiring a coach and mentor. Now, could you reach the level of success that you want to achieve by doing this all on your own? The Lone Ranger. Well, maybe, but do you think it would take you double or even triple the time to achieve it compared to hiring a coach and mentor to help guide your path, provide proven instruction with a tailored blueprint that you could follow for building a real estate business that supports your lifestyle and helps you reach your financial and personal goals? Absolutely. Here's the fact. Time isn't recyclable. So I would like to ask you to make good use of it and extend a personal invitation for you to book a phone coaching strategy session by going to callwithcorey.com. That's callwithcorey, Corey spelled CORY.com. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions on that page, and we're going to go over and see how we can make sure that your business is on path to reach the goals that you want this year. So go to callwithcorey.com, that's CORY, and book your phone coaching strategy session today. Remember, be a servant, and I'll see you on there.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.